My name is Kyle Rudolph. I'm an attorney with Berry Global. I've been working in the intersection of sustainability and the law for Berry for about 3.5 years, 7 years in total as a professional. In terms of my more, I want more renewable, because using alternative material, in my view, holds the promise of a more circular, regenerative economy for packaging. Today I'm going to be talking about navigating the legislative landscape in North America with purpose. During this presentation, we'll talk about the global growth of EPR for packaging. We'll zoom in specifically on North America and the EPR, the Extended Producer Responsibility for Packaging laws that have been passed within the last, I should say, 1 to 2 years. We'll also take a look forward at what's on the horizon and what's likely to pass within the next 1 to 2 years. We'll look at the post-consumer recycled content mandates that have been passed in the US. And then we'll also look at actions to address. Actions that Berry has taken, actions that we think our customers should take, and why. So, globally, packaging EPR was not really around all that much 20 years ago, right? In 2000, you had mandatory EPR for packaging in Europe and Japan. Fast forward to today, and EPR for packaging has exploded across the globe. If you look at a map, it's in every single continent, and in particular, over the last 1.5 years, has really grown in force and effort and potentially impact in the United States. So what does that look like in the United States? Again, we talked about the proliferation of extended producer responsibility laws in the US. Over the last 2 years, the US has passed 4 new laws. Maine, Oregon, Colorado, and California have each passed an extended producer responsibility law for packaging. But what's more indicative of this trend is all of the states that have proposed legislation. As you can see on this map, the dark blue accounts for roughly 15 to 20 states that have looked at EPR but didn't pass it. We think that EPR will continue to trend forward in the United States, with roughly 2 to 6 new EPR for packaging laws being passed in 2023. Another trend in the US that we've seen is the US post-consumer recycled content mandates. We had one pass in New Jersey and in Washington. There's 15 or more distinct state level labeling laws that impact packaging. For plastics, this includes the Resin Identification Code requirements, as well as recently passed legislation in California, SB 343, which dictates whether and when consumer brands can market their products as recyclable in the state of California. We've also seen a proliferation of 20 new state-level advanced recycling laws, identifying advanced recycling as recycling and not a manufacturing process. The FTC, the Federal Trade Commission, is also slated to revise its Green Guides guidance for environmental marketing claims in 2022, which is certainly going to have an amplified and increased impact within the packaging space, and in particularly sustainability. This year, we also saw Canada pass a federal single-use plastic ban for 6 categories of single-use plastic products. And then, of course, in Canada, we also have provincial extended producer responsibility laws and product stewardship programs that apply to a whole host of packaging materials. Like I said, we anticipate between 2 and 6 new packaging EPR laws to be passed within the United States in 2023. So let's look specifically at the US and the extended producer responsibility legislation that has been passed to date. In 2020, 2021 legislative sessions, we had Maine and Oregon pass new EPR for packaging laws. And then this year, we had Colorado and California follow suit. Important to note, Colorado is going to be the first state to have its producer responsibility organization established by the producers. That'll happen in June of 2023. So also important to note that while similarities exist across these EPR laws, there are nuances and differences that are important and impactful. How responsible entities are described and defined, the covered material that is regulated under the law, and then the transaction associated with the use of packaging material is also defined distinctly and differently across each law. Now there are similarities, and we'll talk about those in a moment. We've also seen a proliferation of post-consumer recycled content mandates here in the US. The most important ones being on both coasts, in Washington and New Jersey. But also we have post-consumer recycled content mandates in California and Maine as well. Both of those mandates are additions to the existing beverage container deposit laws and rigid plastic packaging container laws that exist in California and Maine. In 2023, all beverage containers and trash bags with a thickness greater than 0.7 millimeters will be required in the state of Washington to contain certain amounts of post-consumer recycled content. This will continue in New Jersey in 2024 with beverage containers, rigid containers, and trash bags all being subject to the requirements in that state. So what do we do about all of this, right? So one thing that Barry did within the last year is take a holistic survey of all of the new packaging legislation that has been passed in the US. And we took about a dozen new laws and we identified policy objectives contained within those laws. What do the laws allow? What do they prohibit? What do they encourage? What do they discourage? And we took those policy objectives and we ranked them based on commonality across multiple packaging legislative initiatives. And what we learned was that the top two policy objectives across all of these laws are the use of recycled content and the design of packaging for recyclability. And so we believe if our customers do nothing else, they should hone in on those two items: inclusion of recycled content and design for recyclability. Of the top six, 3 of the policy objectives that were identified across all of the new legislation in the US identified objectives pertaining specifically to recyclability. Other objectives in those top 6 included increased reuse and refill applications, reduction in consumer confusion, and the reduction or elimination of packaging material altogether. So what has Barry done to achieve these top policy objectives that are common across all of the North American legislative initiatives that we've seen pass over the last 2 to 3 years? Well, first, we've secured access to recycled content, both mechanical and advanced recycled content, 600 million pounds by 2025 to be exact. And then second, as a part of our Impact 2025 sustainability initiative, we've committed to designing our products to be recyclable, reusable, or compostable by 2025. We're currently at 86% of our goal, with 3 years left to achieve it. So when we look more holistically at what we believe our customers should be doing, you can see that the opportunities to align with strategies that are driven by policy objectives and requirements really pairs pretty nicely. The use of recycled plastic we talked about. Reuse and refill applications are also encouraged under EPR legislation. Improved recyclability of products. Those are 3 things that are identified within the top 6 policy objectives across all legislative requirements under new packaging legislation in the US. But also the use of renewable plastics, we believe is going to be a trend that continues to ascend. And then as well, identifying and selecting suppliers and products that have a low carbon emissions footprint and use less energy and less water than other substrates. This is why we think that our products and packaging will tend to win under the current legislative landscape and the new legislative landscape that will exist and perpetuate into the future. So what do we think our customers should be doing right now? Well, we believe that collaboration is key. We believe that suppliers and their customers need to be identifying their strategic goals. What policy objectives of the legislative requirements that we've talked about are most important to the customer and give the customer the most bang for its buck? Our customers need to identify what products are impacted under what state's laws. Our customers and their suppliers, we believe, need to design for circularity under multiple compliance regimes. This is why, as I mentioned, Berry's taken a holistic approach to the new legislative trends and identified overarching policy objectives we believe check the boxes across multiple compliance regimes. Finally, we think our customers and their supply base should consider the entire value chain when they're identifying the selection criteria for products and packaging products. Selection of suppliers with a low greenhouse gas emissions footprint and a track record of reduced energy intensity are those that we think will win going forward. And then finally, certainty is a thing of the past, right? We think that our customers and their suppliers need to remain agile. If our customers are waiting around for something to happen, they're already too late, right? We've had 4 EPR for packaging bills passed. Many of these states have either started or will start a regulatory review process where regulations will be promulgated and the boundaries of the EPR laws that have been passed will be set. If our customers wait around until the rulemaking process is done, they will have waited too long. So what we believe our customers should be doing is amplified and described within the graphic representation on the right side of this slide. As new legislation passes, commercial dynamics change. Supply and demand paradigms are shifted, and compliance obligations are also brought into the fray. Those compliance obligations feed product design, the commercial dynamics feed company performance. Product design feeds company performance, and company performance feeds product design. And so we see with all of these interacting concepts, compliance obligations, product design, company performance, and commercial dynamics, new legislation that has been passed and is likely to be passed will continue to shape our industry now and in years to come.